Hey guys! Wilma and I just wanted to say hi. Say hi, Wilma. Hi guys. Okay, that's it. I'm gonna put the dog down. Ooh. All right. So I know that you guys were supposed to have a meeting today, and I was gonna give like a quick workshop and kind of like an orientation on why we do short-term mission here, and just to kind of prepare you guys and your hearts and things like that. But there wasn't a meeting, so I came up with an alternative. Lucky you. So here's the alternative. I'm going to have you watch this video, and then you have to bring me your notes in Ecuador so that I know that you actually saw it, because it is extremely critical to me that you listen to these things. And if you don't bring me notes, I'm going to make you pick up dog poop all week long. So it's really worth it to watch this video and take some notes. Okay, that's it. All right, so I'm just going to get started. I just want to do the best that I can to ensure that the ministry that we do with the team, you guys, and the Ecuadorians, all the ministry partners that I have on this side, I want to ensure that that is as mutually beneficial as possible. And that means that both sides are benefiting from it equally. And another way to say that, hold on, let me pull out my notes because I took notes for you guys and everything, is that I would really like to see this to be a healthy partnership. You guys are my home church. You represent me. You represent my church. Our church, you represent God in so many ways, because a lot of the people you're going to be encountering are not believers, or they're very new believers. And then you're also representing the entire country of the United States. So there's a big responsibility, and and that's why I just want to take some time to prepare us well. So considering all that, I've been thinking through just different things that you guys can do on your side, and some time that you can be spending with God, and just how you can be praying and stuff like that. The first thing that I always tell teams when they come is that in order for us to be able to see our Ecuadorian brothers and sisters as equal, as in God's eyes, equally valuable, and things like that, as the body of Christ, I think the first thing that we need to do is work on some of the prejudices that we have, whether we realize we have them or not. I think that most of us probably struggle with these to different degrees. So the first thing is that I'm just going to ask you to die to these things. And that means that every time it goes through your mind, or through your heart, or through your mouth, that you're taking it to the Lord and saying, Lord, can you use this as an opportunity for me to grow and for me to become more like you? I don't think any of us are going to be able to ever do this perfectly. I think that this side of heaven, that's going to be impossible. But it's part of the process of becoming more like Christ. And so I do think that it's possible to grow in some of these areas. So the first one that I'm going to ask you, the first prejudice that I'm going to ask you to die to, is a cultural prejudice. And our culture is almost impossible to remove from ourselves. A culture has been described as the lenses through which we see the world. And I would definitely say that our goal is to have a kingdom culture where we see the world and react to the world the way that God would call us to. And so that's our goal, but we aren't there yet. So some examples of what a cultural prejudice might look like during your time here. Let me think through. Okay, here's a really easy one. You can't throw toilet paper away into the toilet here in Ecuador. In some bathrooms you can, but most of them you can't. And so it's really easy for me to think of that and be like, that's ridiculous. Like, get your plumbing together. How long has the country been around? And in my country, you can go to any toilet in any state, in any home or restaurant, and you can always flush the toilet paper. It's like obvious stuff. My whole country does it. How come you guys can't pull that one together? And obviously I'm being like overly sarcastic. Hopefully you'll get the point. Or driving down the street. I'm like looking around being like, does anybody follow traffic laws? Any traffic laws around here? Traffic laws? No traffic laws. Okay. This looks dangerous. It'd be nice if there were some lane lines maybe. That would be helpful. In my country, there are laws, yeah, and there's lane lines. There's lane lines. So, what ends up happening is slowly but surely, there's this little bit of pride in me that makes me feel like my culture's better. I'm better. Something's better, right? And it sounds silly, and sometimes I think it's just a funny thing, and you probably could just laugh things like that off. But really, I think that it's something that God is calling me to, and I know He's going to call you to the same thing. He's calling me to take that to Him. Instead of judging the people around me or judging the entire country or the culture, I truly believe that God's giving me these opportunities to take those thoughts captive and to bring them to Him so that then He can give me His perspective. Something that you're going to hear us say, hopefully quite a bit, is flexador. Got to be real flexible and flexador, real flexible. And another one is, it's not right, it's not wrong, it's just different. And that's going to cover the majority of the cultural things that come up. And so if we can adopt those two attitudes, I think that's really going to help for your time here in Ecuador. So the next prejudice that I'm going to ask you to die to, and that means taking it straight to the Lord whenever you encounter it, is a spiritual prejudice. And okay, today I went to church. I went to church with Manuel and Kristen, who you're going to meet, and I went to the church where we're all going to be going on Sunday. And so we did 6 worship songs this morning, and it took 53 minutes, 6 songs. Just do the math in your head. Let's see. Then somebody preached, and I would say probably be at least 45 minutes at least. And then we prayed. Not kidding, standing up with my eyes closed for 20 minutes. We actually timed it because it was pretty remarkable. So 20 minutes, and that was just one of the times we prayed. I would say we prayed like 8 times, but one of the times was a solid 20 minutes of standing up. Then we took communion, and people that had been baptized and were allowed to take communion stood up. And then while everybody else that couldn't take communion because they hadn't been baptized, and that's one of the traditions at this particular church, sat down on the side. And so we're all staying there like super awkwardly while they pray some more. And then we got our cup and bread while we stare at the people who haven't been baptized yet. And then there's a whole other thing. I'll tell you about that later. Remind me to tell you about Funesca because it was pretty epic. So anyway, church is a little different than it is at Seaside. I would definitely say that. A lot of times there's children crying or dogs walking through, or really not very trained worship pastors, things like that. And some things are just, some things, like I said, you can just laugh at, right? Like seriously, after standing up for 15 minutes praying, I was just like, wow, my prayer life is a little different than this. So what do I do about that? But the truth of the matter is that each one of us believes that we have the corner on how God likes to be worshiped. Maybe not all of us don't, but it's very easy to feel like we know how God likes to be worshiped. Because if we thought God liked to be worshiped another way, we would worship Him another way. So it kind of makes sense. Now, the reality is there are so many different denominations and so many different traditions in the Christian faith. And I think really God likes diversity. That's what I would guess. But it's very easy to be in some of those church situations or spiritual situations, and because we feel so uncomfortable, it's really easy to judge that. And I just admitted like how I did it today. So there you go. So what I'm just going to challenge you to is, while you're here in Ecuador, to take those experiences and to be asking God, what can I learn from this? How can I learn to worship you differently, or to honor you differently, or to be more like you? How can you use the people around me in these circumstances to teach me more about you? Because I think we have a lot to learn from the Ecuadorians that you're going to meet, a lot to learn from their faith. And I'm sure that's one of the reasons why God's bringing you here. So that's spiritual prejudice. The last thing is not a prejudice, but it's still something that I'm going to ask you to die to, and that's self-seeking ambition. And what that means is that it's all about you, or that that you're thinking, more selfishly than God would call you to. I don't know why you guys have decided to come to Ecuador. Maybe it's because you want to meet Wilma. Maybe. I mean, who wouldn't? Duh. Maybe it's because you've heard a lot about it, either through me or through other people who've been here. Maybe it's because you just love missions. Maybe it's because you really need to get some volunteer hours in order to put that on your applications to college. Maybe it's because your parents are making you. Maybe it's because on short-term missions you find God, and God's in other countries, not in the United States. Maybe you're escaping something. Maybe God made it incredibly clear that this is where he wants you to be. And to be honest, it doesn't even really matter why you're coming to Ecuador at this point. The wonderful thing about God is that he'll do whatever it takes to get you to where you need to be. And he can even use some of those maybe not so good reasons to get you to where he wants you to be. But what I would challenge you to is that our God is so good. He is so good that he can take some bad motives and turn them into something beautiful. So if that is you, and you've had maybe some selfish motives or whatever, I just challenge you to be praying about that and being like, okay, God, maybe that's how I started, but I want to end so differently. I want to end the way that you want me to, God, and I want to be able to see why you have me going to Ecuador. So that's really going to affect a lot of the way that we treat each other, especially. I would love to see this a week of serving each other and loving each other. That's within the team as well as the Ecuadorians. To be watching the way that we talk to each other, to be challenging each other. You only have a few days in the country. Seriously, it's not very much time. And I am going to harp on you to continue to take those conversations that you have with each other deeper and deeper and deeper. Whether it's around the breakfast table or at the construction site or it's not really construction, but when we're painting and things like that, on the bus, while we're walking, that instead of just talking about a bunch of nothing, I challenge you to be taking those conversations deeper and to be asking each other how you're really doing and how you're growing, and to be praying for each other. So don't worry, I'll remind you of that one. Okay, so those are a couple things that I'm going to ask you to continually to be bringing to the Lord. The next thing is that in order to work towards this type of partnership that I had said earlier is mutually beneficial, it's important, super, super critical, that we see our Ecuadorian brothers and sisters, and even our brothers and sisters on the team, as equal and valuable in God's eyes. That I am no better, no worse than the people around me, because they've all been created equally by God. So a couple of things, I just was trying to think of some practical ways to help you with that concept. And one of the things is that a lot of times short-term teams come down with the idea that I'm ready to give. I've practiced my ministry. I'm an excellent balloon artist. I've come up with the best foot washing ministry ever. And these poor people in Ecuador that don't know Jesus, they are just gonna be life changed. Crazy, because I've been working really hard and I'm here to give. And I want to commend you for that, because I think that